Hello everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I don't really know how to do this or anything, and I'm sorry for the really terrible camera quality because I'm just using my laptop and it's not going to be great. Maybe one day I'll get a camera and this can be better, but for now this will do. Um, Sorry this video is really late. I promised to upload this like a week ago, but I had the first week of school and I've been really busy and really tired, so sorry. But I'm getting to it now, and I hope that you enjoy. Um, so I asked a bunch of you some questions on Facebook, or I asked for a bunch of questions from you on Facebook. Um, Anything that you're curious about with me living in China or my experience as a teacher or anything like that. So I'll try to make this very quick and get through the questions. So the first one was from Jody. Hey Jody. She said, "How do the folks in China treat Americans in general?" Um, the Chinese people treat all foreigners really well, for the most part. I've never had any bad experience whatsoever. It kind of depends on the person and how you how people respond to a lot of attention. In some parts of China, they are not used to seeing foreigners from anywhere, and so maybe they will stare, maybe they'll take pictures of you without asking your permission, maybe they will send their children to pose with you for photographs, maybe they'll, talk about you loudly. It just, but in some areas like Shanghai and Beijing, where foreigners are much more common, they will not think about you at all. You're just another passing face to them. Americans specifically, I don't think get any specific recognition. Maybe, they'll have like some political questions for you depending on what they know. Um, they're just interested in foreigners in general. And a big part of the Chinese culture is to just be very welcoming and hospitable. So overall, the experience is really great no matter what country you're from. The second part of her question was, how do the folks in China treat the Americans like you that are there to help people? And I'm assuming this means as a teacher. Anything else I'm not going to get into. Um, but yeah, yeah, as a teacher, as I said before, Chinese people are very welcoming to all foreigners, but uh, I guess like a subcategory of this is that Chinese people also have a very high respect, high regard for educators and teachers. So if someone is coming over here like me as a teacher, um, specifically someone teaching English, um, the the respect and the appreciation is big. Um, Chinese people are very interested in furthering themselves, and they believe that a good way to do that is to know English. And so, if you're coming here, you're already seeking after a very respected career field anyway, but you're here basically with this token for life that they desperately want to have. So the appreciation is great, and so they treat me well. They from what I understand, they treat others really well too. I haven't had any bad experiences. Thanks for the question. The next one is from Cassie. Um, she asks, "What's been your favorite thing about China, and what do you miss the most about America?" um, my favorite thing about China has and always will be that the people are amazing. The people, the culture, um, they're just one big family, one big community. Everyone looks out for one another. It's just really, really unlike anything that I ever experienced living in America. Not to say anything bad about America, but it's very individualistic, and China is not like that. You are always surrounded by someone. You're always expected to honor people and love people and literally and figuratively share from your plate with others. Like it's just one big family. And so the people have always been my favorite part. That's why I came to China in the first place, because I just love Chinese people. Um, what do I miss the most about America? I mean, my family and my friends. Um, I really, really miss my nephews. I wish that I could be a part of all of their firsts, and I wish that I could, just be around them for the holidays and stuff like that. But I'm just holding out and just praying that maybe one day they'll think I'm a really cool aunt because I've traveled, or maybe I can share some wisdom with them. And yeah, hopefully my experiences will be something that's good for them and not something that took away from our relationship. um, okay, thanks, Cassie. The next one is from Ashley. She asks, "What was the biggest culture shock?" I think I'm going to get this kind of question again, so I'll just answer it in a big umbrella way. The biggest culture shock is, hmm, I mean, probably just like things not being as convenient as they once were. Um, like, you know, you don't really realize how often you may be sick, or how often you may need medical attention, or how often you have like grown up things to do, like going to pay your bills. Like just really like boring stuff like that. Um, it's actually really really difficult when no one speaks English. Sorry, I got a text message. When no one speaks English, and so um, when I first, so the biggest example for me specifically is that when I first got here, I was sick a lot. That's, I guess, another part of the culture shock. It's more just moving to a different country or somewhere other than your home shock. Um, because when you grow up in one habitat, when you leave that habitat, it can become really hard for your body to adjust. And that was the case for me. I got here and I was sick as a dog for like 6 months. And it was really hard to have to adjust to that, as well as starting a new job and being away from my family. And yeah, just like in that time, having to go to hospitals and always having to have a Chinese person with me because I couldn't do anything on my own. That was hard. Mostly because it just felt like, even though I just graduated college and I'm going to live on my own, I felt like I was a kid again. I didn't really have any independence, and maybe that all goes together. I don't know. Yeah. So the culture shock is there are a lot of like layers to it, but the biggest thing is just things not being the way they once were. Ashley also asked, "How have you seen the political dispute between the United States and China playing out there?" Um, I don't know anything about politics as far as being in China goes, and I desperately try to stay out of it. I haven't seen anything playing out, and I believe that that's intentional. Thanks, Ashley. Okay, Chelsea Beatty, hello, asked, "Is it hard to get a work visa?" It depends on what you consider to be hard. I think there were a lot of steps and quite a lot of money was put into it, because you have to pay for medical checks, and depending on where you live in relationship to your like the closest Chinese embassy and consulate, can be like a travel cost. Some of the like actual documents would cost fees, and so like to some degree it is difficult, but um, there are a lot of like reimbursements, depending on what kind of job you're trying to get, and which country you're going to, I guess. So from my personal experience, I got a job teaching English in China, and I was told up front that the visa costs were going to be paid by me to begin with, and once I got in China, I would be reimbursed for all of the costs, which I believe is very common for these English companies. So, um, the money situation, if you look into it, if you speak openly about it with whoever your recruiter is, can be dealt with fairly easily. Now, as far as like it being a lot of steps, yeah, that I would say that's probably the most stressful part, um, because there are a lot of steps to it. Half the time, you don't really know what you're doing. You're probably communicating with someone from whichever country you're trying to go to. For me, it was Chinese people, and maybe their English wasn't that great. They're trying to explain something to me about American visa processes, but they live in China. Maybe they don't understand it. So it's a little bit difficult. But thinking back on it now, it just felt difficult at the time. Not so bad when you look back on it. um, is that what you have to have? A work visa? Yes. If you want to work in China specifically, the only legal and right way to work and live in China is to have a work visa. I know there are many different kinds, and you can research into them, but the only legal way is to have a bachelor's degree and have a work visa. And you'll put in the work for it, so you feel like you've done something right at the end of the day to have the visa. um, she also asked, how long does it last? Typically, a work visa lasts between 6 months to 1 year. Some work visas are a little bit strange. I know some people had like where it expires every 90 days or something, and so the people have to leave the country and then come back in to show that they're stamping their passports or something, but I don't know much about that. Typically, it's 6 months to 1 year. Thanks, Chelsea. Next is Samantha. Uh, she said, how do you get by daily while not knowing the language? That's a good question because I think it can intimidate a lot of people about wanting to move um, across the world, but I'm going to speak about China specifically. I think it can intimidate a lot of people about moving to China and possibly scare them away from the idea. And to be honest, yeah, like I said earlier, it can be really inconvenient to not know the language and try and do just like regular things, like go to the hospital or pay your bills or something. It can be kind of difficult, but thankfully, China is a very, very technologically advanced country, and almost everything you do is done on your phone. And um, and if you're trying to get it, and I'm assuming you're considering possibly or asking questions about teaching English, that's my experience. Um, Usually, if you're teaching English as a second language in China, you are working around a lot of Chinese people who know English, so they can always help you out. And and those are just the ways that I get by without knowing the language at all. So I use my phone, and I make really good use of all of the friends that I have around me. But the third thing is to just practice the language. Um, I've made it a year without really learning much more than a couple of sentences, but I can make it by. And any way to, the best way to get involved with any culture in any country is to know the language so that you can get the best out of your experience. Um, do a lot of people speak English there? I think when you take into account the amount of people that live in China, percentage wise, probably not a lot of people speak English, but they're trying really hard to grow that number. And as I said, um, if you're here to work as an English teacher, you're typically going to be placed in a school with a lot of Chinese people who also speak English. And people who speak English tend to sort of run with the same crowds. So you will find that you have more exposure to English speakers than you ever imagined. Thanks so much, Samantha. Now, Jay, um, asked, what type of culture shock have you had since arriving in China? I already answered this before. It's a very multifaceted question. There are a lot of culture shocks to face, the biggest one being inconvenience. Um, what do you enjoy or dislike about China? Well, I enjoy the people a lot. They're great. I enjoy how cheap everything is, and I mean that like I can go and have a day adventure in my city and spend virtually nothing on on the adventure. I can go hiking anywhere I want. It's really, really affordable to live in China, and that's just one of the many reasons why living here is so awesome. Um, I also really enjoy the food. Oh my gosh, Chinese food is so good. And that kind of goes in with my dislike because I have so many food allergies and I have to be so careful about what I eat. I hate that there's so much Chinese food I'm missing out on every day. I see all of my coworkers and all of my friends eating whatever they want in China, getting to experience it all, and I feel so jealous. I hate that Chinese people Chinese people put meat in everything for seasoning, for like flavor. They just for the beauty, the appearance of it. They put meat in literally everything, and I'm now vegetarian, so that's no go for me. And even before that, when I was eating meat, but I wasn't eating seafood, still put meat in everything, and all of that meat touches all the time. There's just no safety, and it's a bit hard, but I love them so much, and I love the food that I can eat. I hate that there's so much I'm missing out on. Jay also asked, how is my Mandarin? I touched on this earlier. I've been here for a year, and I've taken no Chinese lessons, and I've only learned a couple of sentences. Um, yeah, so it's not good. The most I learn on a day-to-day basis is from my students, who are very interested in teaching me as much as I teach them. Thanks, Jay. The next one is from my mom. Hey, mommy. She said, what's your favorite food? Chinese barbecue is really, really good. It's like the best thing ever. And it's very different from American barbecue. I'll have to make another video about it some other time, but it's truly, truly the best thing ever. Also, Chinese people cook pumpkin and cauliflower in ways that I've never even considered, and it's just so delicious. And I eat cauliflower and pumpkin almost every single day because China has changed my life. Mama also asked, what do you miss eating in America? Um, I miss like this is so bad. I really miss like American fast food. Um, like Taco Bell and like Zaxby's and Arby's and like back when I was eating meat, I would have killed for some hot wings. But also the home cooked stuff. I miss being able to go to the grocery store and just like have a lot of like organic options and fresh vegetables and um, things with English writing on it. Like I just miss all of that. Chinese people don't really have like tubs of ice cream, but I guess it's healthier. A lot of Chinese people are lactose intolerant, but I really miss being able to just eat like mint chocolate chip ice cream out of the tub, like just little, like the unhealthy stuff, but healthier stuff like being able to roast vegetables in an oven. And, you know, they don't really have ovens in China, so it doesn't really happen that often. Just, being able to cook the things that I want to cook and not have to rely so much on translating apps. um, Mama also asked, how do you get around? I walk mostly. I take metro, um, which is very affordable and easy to take. They also have taxis everywhere and um, Chinese Uber, which is called Didi. What's my apartment like? It's beautiful. I just moved into a new apartment when I started my new job. It's pretty nice sized for Chinese style. Um, And Chinese apartments all come furnished, which is really great. So it's a little bit like moving into a dorm every time you change. Um, they've got some pretty interesting decorations, but I really like it. Who do you miss the most back home? Obviously, you, mother. Thanks for your question. Next is Vin and Sori. Thanks so much for reaching out. What's the biggest thing you miss from home? I mean, I touched on this a little bit with the food, and like, what do you miss most about America? Um, my family, yeah, my family and friends. I really miss uh, just being around them so much, and um, I miss things being convenient. I miss things being easily understood. I miss I miss driving. I really, really miss driving. And like the biggest, most important thing is that I really miss being able to like practice my faith openly. But I'm not gonna get into that too much. Um, what's the biggest thing you'd miss about China if you left? Oh. Well, I would really miss the people. I would miss my students so much. I've already left one school while in China and I cried like a baby because even being in the same city with them and not teaching them every day was too much for me to handle. So I don't even know how I'm going to leave the country. It's going to be really hard. Those students really, I mean, Chinese children are just so cute and they're so active and full of life and they love learning and I don't know how I'm going to do it, honestly. It's going to be the hardest thing. Oh gosh. But yeah, that'll kill me and leaving Chinese food is going to be rough and I've spent over a year here and it feels like its own version of home. So it'll be just as hard as leaving my real home. Um, hope to come back one day, whenever that is. Okay. Kaylee, I love you. Kaylee asked, "What is your favorite Chinese holiday?" And I'm happy that I did decide to make this video today because today is officially Teachers' Day in China. It is a national holiday that everyone takes very seriously because, as I mentioned before, China really respects and revere educators. And even though so here's a little bit of a story time. The reason that this is my favorite holiday is not just because I am personally a teacher, but I've only been at this new school for a week, and today my students came in and one by one hugged me. Like in a line, they just hugged me one after the other. They were not told to do so. They just were happy to see me. They told me they loved me. They call me mama. And they all made sure that they learned the phrase Happy Teacher's Day just so that they could tell me at the end of class. And I was brought flowers, I was brought cards, someone brought me a piece of cake, and there's just there's so much love for teachers here, and I really, really, really think that America could take a lesson from this. No pun intended. Because teachers really need to be more respected and more loved and more appreciated everywhere in the world because you know, it's a pretty selfless position to be in. And so I just really respect China for having this as a holiday and for taking it so seriously. And I really, really appreciate all the love that I've gotten today. And yeah, this is definitely going to be a holiday I take back to America with me and celebrate for all of the years to come because it's a really cool day. And there are a ton of Chinese holidays all around the year, way more than America. It's really awesome. And maybe I can make a video about the rest of them in the future. But my favorite one is Teacher's Day. So that was the last question, and I'm really sorry that it ended up being a longer video than I anticipated, but I'm happy that I got to answer so many of them. In the future, if you have any more questions, I would love to make more videos, and I probably will make a series about what it's like to be a teacher here, and if you have any specific questions about that, please let me know. Bye!